channel, Suddenly Psychic with Bree, also known as Oracle Bree. I run a professional tarot business called Twin Tuition Tarot off my Facebook. So I will link that down below if you're ever interested in getting yourself a professional tarot reading. But today and over here on my YouTube channel, we talk about spiritually based stuff. So today's topic is intuition. What is intuition? How do you know when it's your intuition that's talking? And what happens if you do and don't listen to it? Stay tuned for those answers. So your intuition is that small yet still quiet voice deep in your mind that is way underneath your louder ego voice. And we actually hear it all the time, and most of us ignore it all the time. Why do we do that? Here's a perfect example of what happened to me last night. So I'm laying in bed and I'm thinking about my next YouTube video, and I'm scrolling through YouTube, and suddenly I hear clairaudiently, but it was also my intuition, my higher self, I heard Simply Psychic. Okay, I'm like, that's amazing, that's perfect, I'm using that right now. I'm going to go make a new logo brand, I am going to make a new banner, I am just going to change everything, and it's Simply Psychic, it's perfect, that's it. And I'm super excited, right? I'm just like all about it. And then I go to upload it, and my ego kicks in and starts saying things like, are you sure you want to do that? Is that catchy enough? You need to check first to make sure somebody else doesn't have that name. And it's just like all of these negative thoughts about me wanting to do this. So what just happened there? My ego, who I did not listen to, is getting super defensive and extremely upset that I'm listening to my intuition, that I'm listening to my higher self. It is trying to analyze, tear from limb apart every single thing to try to make it make sense. The thing about your intuition is most of the time it's not going to make sense, and that's what makes it so much more difficult to follow, because you don't know, is this the right answer? It logically doesn't make sense. Usually following your intuition has no rhyme or reason to it, and most of us don't follow it because we don't know what's going to happen. It's really ambiguous, and you know, when your ego is in play, you've laid out all these pros and cons of what's going to happen, and you kind of can at least say, well, I chose this because of this, and this is if it does happen, and this is if it doesn't happen. But when you're trusting your intuition, you really don't know anything. You are kind of on your own. So in other words, how do you know when you're trusting your intuition? This is how, for a split second, or maybe a few minutes, when you follow your intuition, you feel kind of dumb. You really feel like you put yourself out there. You put yourself out there to make a mistake. And trusting your intuition can be really difficult and hard and scary sometimes, because, you know, with there no rhyme or reason, and you're just kind of not analyzing, and not, you know, your ego is so mad too. So not only do your ego is what's going to make you feel dumb for following your intuition almost every time. So what you need to do is follow your intuition enough times where that feeling of, oh, that's dumb, I just made a mistake, that feeling turns into a good feeling. Like, yes, I don't know why I just did what I did, but I know something great is going to come from it because I followed my intuition. That is the outlook that you need. That is how you get used to trusting your intuition. So I'm not sure if any of you ever do any of the pick-a-cards that they have on YouTube, but if you do, then you're probably already somewhat, you somewhat understand the choices your intuition makes. Or you do the pick-a-cards and they never make sense to you and you're not sure why, and that's because you're not following your intuition. So for an example, if you just look at all 4 cards, just look straight, not look at each of them, one is going to pop out at you. One of them that you're not even really looking at, you're just with your peripheral, is going to pop out at you. And then you're going to start to look at them. And if you don't give your ego a chance to say anything, you know, when you're looking straight and then you're like, all right, pile two. I already know pile two. It's just jumping out at me. But then if you're like, wait a minute, and you really look at them and you're like, oh, but wait a minute, the crystal on pile four is really pretty, so I'm going to go with pile four. That's not going to be your pile. You can't go after what your ego finds to be attractive or what your ego thinks, you know, you should follow because everybody else follows. You need to go with your higher self and your intuition. Here's another example. Say you open your cupboard because you're getting a drink and you've got like 4 or 5 cups in there, right? So you just open it and right away your intuition tells you the green one. But then you're like, ew, I don't like that green one. That's your ego. Ew, I don't like that green one. I love, you know, I'm going for my red cup that I love. I can't believe it's clean. I'm excited. And then you get your red cup out and you pour a drink and then it's spilling everywhere because there's a crack in the bottom of your red cup and it's leaking everywhere. And the actual best option for you in there was the green cup. That's what listening to your intuition is. Here's one more example of mine. So my 2-year-old daughter is climbing up the ladder on the trampoline. She does it every day, all the time. And this one specific time, as I panned around my backyard, without even really thinking about it, and that's when you know it's your intuition, because you didn't get a chance to think about it. The first response that comes into your head is generally your intuition, and that's the one that you want to get used to trusting and to going with, even when it feels uncomfortable. And it feels uncomfortable because, like I said, you're trusting something with no rhyme or reason. You can't explain it and it doesn't make sense. So that's why it's going to feel dumb. It's going to feel like the wrong choice. But you need to get used to that becoming a welcomed feeling in your life. So I'm panning in the backyard and I see her on the stairs, on the ladder, and I hear she's going to fall. And instantly my ego kicks in and goes, she's not going to fall. She does that all the time. She does it all the time. Why would she fall this time? And guess what? She slipped and she fell. And the same thing happened. I don't know why it's always this daughter of mine. Another same example happened where it was like, oh, she's going to hurt her toe, she's going to hurt her foot. I'm like, nope, that's silly. And that was just me being lazy, my ego being lazy, being like, nope, that happens all the time. She's not going to. And guess what? She slipped. So I feel like Spirit had this poor daughter of mine have the same thing kind of happen to me, so I could really get it into my head, you know. So now when I hear something right away, it doesn't matter if it involves, it doesn't make any sense. I have to, you know, get up or be proactive or do something, and there's no reason for it. And honestly, if I would have listened to my intuition with her on the ladder, and I would have went, I would have never known that she was going to fall because I already would have been right there protecting her. So how do you always know that your intuition was right? You don't. You just need to trust it. You need to trust the universe, trust your higher self, and trust in the plan. The one thing you cannot always trust is your ego. Your ego is going to lie to you. Your ego is just trying to make you look good according to how the rest of the world thinks you should look, because your ego follows suit. It follows everything else. Like, it immediately didn't like Suddenly Psychic because it was probably thinking there was something cooler out there. You know, like, how rude is that? I am totally going to go with my intuition on this, and my channel is now called Suddenly Psychic. So I am so excited for all of you to join me. If you're already here, go ahead and like this video, subscribe. I hope to have some great content coming out. This is all content that comes to me from my intuition. So, and if you're curious as to how you could wake up one day and be suddenly psychic, well, you don't. I've always been psychic. I just didn't always know it. And then one day, at the end of 2020, the last few weeks, there was a whole lot of awakening happening, and I was suddenly psychic. One day, everybody who ever knew me saw me as one person in one way, and then I came out to the world, and everyone's like, wow, she is suddenly psychic. how crazy is that? And it's kind of like, no, I was always this way, I just didn't know what to call it. But so that could happen to you if it hasn't already. One day you could wake up and be suddenly psychic. So I hope that that's you, that you're going to subscribe to my channel and stay tuned to any future videos that I have coming out. All right. Love, light, and blessings, Spirit fam.